Drew Mayville. Very
Hey
exciting
Trey,
to
how are
have
you?
you here.
Thanks for having us.
This is very special. So you are obviously a spirits industry legend,
Oh, I'm
and
not sure about that.
I am excited to be able to have you in Tampa and get to sit down and talk a little bit about your history and your time now with Buffalo Trace and what kind of the road it was to get there. So I wanted to be able to sit down and
Great.
let you kind of talk about that.
We can start.
Let's do it. Hey everyone, I'm Trey. And that guy is Frank, aka my dad. Our family has been in the alcohol business for over 30 years. We currently have 6 liquor stores and 2 bars in Tampa, Florida. Subscribe to our channel to get a behind the scenes look at what it takes to operate in the liquor industry.
Trey, how do I get this camera to work?
So my career actually started back 45 years ago, and in the beverage alcohol industry. So I guess I would be called a veteran of being 45 years. I started out in a company named Seagram's, and Seagram's was the largest distiller in the world, and that's where I really learnt my profession, my craft. And Seagram at the time was being the largest, also had the best blending team in the world. And obviously that's was suitable for what I needed and became the master blender of Seagram in North America after a few years. So that's where it started. It didn't end there because Seagram was sold to Pernod and a company called Diageo. And I went on as the master blender for Diageo for several years before I got the opportunity to go to a company called Sazerac. And that was now 21 years ago. And I don't know if you're familiar, but Sazerac owns multiple distilleries, but the crown jewel is basically Buffalo Trace. And 21 years ago, absolutely nobody knew who Buffalo Trace was. And today we're the world's most award-winning distillery. So quite a long journey to get here. And being master blender in 3 different companies is quite unique. There's not a lot of people who have the background I have with different product lines from, say, everything from Canadian whiskey right through to bourbon. And that's just whiskey because Seagram was also known back in the day for rums, for a lot of other aged goods that I got a lot of experience in. And that's probably one of the reasons why I eventually arrived at a place called Buffalo Trace Distillery, because the leadership at the time wanted that experience. And they knew at the time, 20 years ago, they wanted to go somewhere else, not just being low on the totem pole. They wanted to be one of the big spirit giants of the world. And that's really where I am right today.
That's amazing. So you said master blender, and I think a lot of people hear master blender, they hear master distiller. What is the difference between the two?
Well, a lot of people confuse the two. I get actually introduced as master distiller lots of times, and I just joke about it a little bit, but I'm not the distiller, obviously. And I've heard it described this way. Gives people an idea is the master distiller would be like the cook, and the master blender would be the chef, where
Okay.
you put all the different ingredients together to give you the final product. And really, distilling is really scientific versus blending is more of an art. At least at Seagram's, a lot of my mentor basically believe that science is more distilling and blending is more of an art form, because really you cannot go to school to learn how to blend. There's no school on blending. It's really through experience and that mentorship with the best in the industry, other master blenders. And Seagram was the best for it. So they were the best trainers in the spirits alcohol industry. And that's very fortunate to have that background.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's Buffalo Trace is very fortunate to have you, obviously, and you've seen crazy times in this industry and the years that you've been at Buffalo Trace. Talk to me a little bit about the bourbon boom that we've seen and how that's kind of affected your role?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that all bourbons are blended
Mhm.
except for single barrels. You know, you don't hear that word or that terminology when you come to Kentucky and talk about bourbon. Most people do not talk blending bourbon, but really, in essence, you're marrying these different barrels from different locations throughout the distillery, and you're arriving at a final product. And that's what you're doing is you're really blending. You can call it whatever you want, blending, mixing, mingling, whatever you want to call it. You are actually blending in a sense, in the true sense. So blending has been part of bourbon forever, and it will continue to do that. But blending is something that they were not used to talking about when I first arrived. And, you know, making a product taste the same is not as easy as people think. And so, one of the things is you want consistency as a blender. The other thing you want is a blender gives you new and unique uh, flavor profiles that you can't get through any single particular whiskey or bourbon. So I see you have my last drop blend here.
Yeah.
So that's something that you can't get by making uh, one recipe on the still, aging it, and putting it into a bottle. This is a multitude of different whiskeys that are put into making that particular product. And that's what a blender does, is give you new and unique products like that.
And there's been obviously a ton of products in the Buffalo Trace realm that you've had your hands on, and
We never stop.
yeah, I mean, and they probably never will.
Well, that's the whole intent.
Right.
Because the objective of Buffalo Trace is to make the best whiskey in the world. And so that's nonstop because, as you know, as well as if I was to ask everybody what's the best bourbon, the best
Mm.
whiskey they ever taste, they will all give me different answers
Mm-hmm.
because there's no real definition of the best. You can make really great products to some people, and other people prefer other ones.
Sure.
So we'll never get where we want to go, but we're always trying to make better products all the time. And that's really our mandate, and that's our motto is honor tradition, embrace change, which means make better whiskey. That change is innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a history at the distillery of innovation from the time it started.
Which is pretty amazing to be that juggernaut of bourbon and to be that juggernaut heritage with Buffalo Trace and still innovating and coming out with new products. I mean, Eagle Rare 12 year and new products continually, not just in the bourbon world, but obviously in the rum world as well. So
Right, right. And
it's
that's kind of the excitement for someone like myself, a blender, or even a distiller, to try different things and different products because my background is varied from rums to scotches to whiskeys. So I have that background. That's what excites me is making new products. Just like the Myers, doing something different, something that tastes different, maybe better to some people, others maybe not. But that's the idea. We're trying to make better products, like you say, not just bourbon and whiskey, but rum, tequila, vodka, any product you can think of. Sazerac is right there.
yeah, it's amazing. I sometimes think folks forget about how many products are truly under the Sazerac umbrella, and so this channel is a part of that, kind of seeing behind the bottle and just everything that is behind it, and Sazerac is a huge factor of that.
Now, I
Um,
would say we probably have about 500 different SKUs, which I think that's like an old number because we keep introducing new products. As a matter of fact, we have a new product development team, which I was in charge of for a long time. Uh, and we developed that team. So we're inventing new products every day, which is probably more than all our competitors put together. We do that all the time.
Absolutely, and surely not everything can be a winner, right?
Well, it's certainly not.
And that's a thing that happens. What was something that you think was maybe really high up on your list that that thought would be amazing and didn't kind of
Mm.
end up being that?
What everybody wanted it to
Of
be.
course, yeah.
Well, there's been quite a few, but one is back when I first started was It was called CPR. Probably nobody ever heard of that. It's called Charter Private Reserve.
Okay.
And so that was a blended product that was not, it wasn't ready to come out at that time.
Right.
But it was also blended. It was really confusing for the consumer because Charter was a bourbon, and we called it we basically blended whiskeys to make this product. So there was confusion there. So that's probably why it didn't take off, because the taste was excellent.
So what about the flip side of that? Something that maybe you didn't think was going to do as well as it did, and all of a sudden it's crazy.
Well, maybe the best example is our Buffalo Trace Bourbon Cream,
Mm.
because it started off in our, nobody wanted to do it at the beginning. It took me several years to convince people to do it. The guy in charge of marketing for our company had previously come from Diageo, and they have Bailey's, and
Mm-hmm.
well, you can't do anything there. And so there was negativity at the beginning, but eventually the CEO said, let's try it in the gift shop. So let's trial it to see if people enjoy it. And what actually happened, it became the #1 selling item in the gift shop.
Wow.
And that's because we use bourbon.
Mm.
And most companies would use other products like flavorings and things, but we use bourbon. So, and actually that was one of the limiting factors why it was allocated for so many years, because we just didn't have the 8-year-old bourbon to put in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a wild success from the beginning. And then the idea was, the concept that the executive took was, as people ask for it, we're going to give it to them. So we never launched it nationally like a
Okay.
big company would. We just little pockets here and there, word of mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually spread dramatically over years.
And it's a full year seller for me. I have it at all my locations, and
Well, that's the intent
and
behind it.
it consistently moves. And I was actually talking to one of the on the ground Sazerac guys here not too long ago about it, and he was like, "Man, you sell a ton of Buffalo Trace Bourbon Cream." And I think when people try it,
Yeah, they love it.
it's unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
unbelievable.
get so many positive. That's probably the most fulfilling thing, is when someone tries it, they, wow, this is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You can't imagine how good that feels. And then when you take the airplane ride on Delta, they have bourbon cream on there.
That's
It
right.
feels pretty good when you're on there.
That's pretty special.
And that's something that started out like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And I had to develop the marketing plan, the sales plan, and the packaging. Because back in 20 some years ago, we never had people to do that. So I was doing it because I believed in it.
That's amazing.
So that was one that, who knows what would have happened, but it turned out pretty good.
Sure did. When did that product come out?
That would have been probably about 14 years ago, 13 or 14 years.
And has
So,
packaging stayed the same as well?
oh, it's changed.
Okay.
Yeah. It was an original, actually didn't even have Buffalo Trace on it. We didn't want to associate it at the time. But as we gained confidence in it, then we started putting the name on it. It looked pretty plain. It was a plain brown
Okay.
bottle and pretty plain label. And now I think it's going to change again in the near future.
Interesting. Do you have a play in any of that, given your 2 cents on the packaging? And
Well, I used to, but not so much anymore.
okay.
But even products like, I don't know if you don't have our Sazerac rye. Back in those days in 2006, that was a few years after I joined, I was involved with all the marketing meetings and the planning, what bottles to use. We went through, the labels, the names. So I used to be involved with all those intricate, but as you get bigger, you can't be
Of course.
obviously involved. So I had that background, which is kind of fun because you see what bottles it's going to go in,
Mhm.
you have input. So that was exciting. That was fun back in those days.
That
And now those brands everybody buys them and they don't even think twice about it.
Yeah. I get a feeling that you probably can't even
I can't describe it
Right.
really. Yeah, there is the bottle there.
Yeah. One of the coolest bottles, I think, truly, that sits on the shelves at the stores.
And
But
it's really reminiscent. If you ever go to the museum in Bardstown, they'll have old bottles from the 1800s. This will fit in right with that.
really,
And that was the idea.
yeah, it's still, I mean, to this day, I think it's very unique on the
Yes.
shelf. And
Yeah.
that's something, and especially now at this point where it's on the shelf all the time, both sizes. And it's one of those things that if anybody wanted to come into the store and buy one, you can now. And that's really
Cool.
special to have that aspect as well.
And the other thing is now we have a new one. It's 100 proof, which is made primarily for bartenders to really add another dimension to a cocktail.
Okay.
Comes in 1 liter size. It's 100 proof.
And is that the only size it will come in?
Right now, as far
Okay.
as I know, unless there's a lot of demand.
Sure.
But right now it's the 1 liter.
So talk to us about the last drop a little bit more. Where did this all come from? What exactly is it?
Well, the last drop is really an interesting story because it started out in 2008 with 2 veterans from the industry, and they were almost like one of them was retired. And what they wanted to do is find the rarest parcels of spirits in the world. So it didn't have to be whiskey. It could have been a cognac.
Mm-hmm.
It could be any spirit in around the world. You know, not only was it has to be rare, but the other criteria they used, it has to taste remarkable.
Okay.
Because you can get a lot of rare rums, whiskeys, cognacs, but it doesn't taste remarkable.
Mm.
So, as a matter of fact, we probably, out of 100, we probably would look at 99 and reject them all. Maybe 1 would get through.
Wow.
So it has to meet those 2 criteria. So in 2008, that was and Sazerac bought it in 2000. That company in 2008, 16.
Okay.
So we've had it for a while and we've been developing it. So we're over 37 releases now, but you're never going to find big releases.
Sure.
It's very small because there's very few parcels left. And as a matter of fact, not only are we looking for those parcels, we're actually putting some away ourselves now.
Mm.
So we're going to have our own, because everybody else has realized the value of these last parcels. So they actually keep them for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So years ago, it used to be, oh yeah, we'll sell you that, but not anymore. So you won't find that as often. So we're actually making our own, even though it's going to take another 20, 30, 40 years, because most of them are quite old.
Absolutely. I think that actually segments into a question I've wanted to ask you too, is that where do you see this industry in 10, 20, 30 years? I mean, do you think there's still going to be that demand for ultra rare products will probably never fade, right?
Right.
But do you think that stuff that you guys are putting away for 10, 15, 20 years, do you think this demand will ever change?
Well, it probably will go up and down. It will cycle. But the thing is, for Sazerac and for Buffalo Trace is we can't even provide the volume necessary for the United States.
Right.
We just are getting on stream now with even just Buffalo Trace
Mm-hmm.
to be available in the store shelves. Because if you come to Kentucky, you will not find Buffalo Trace products on the shelf. It'll be vacant. You're just starting to see some Buffalo Trace now. So that is all good news for us because we need to explore worldwide, which we haven't done a lot of in the past. So part of what I'm doing now is traveling the world, educating people about our products. So trying to get that market to be big in the future for us.
Very cool.
That will take our liquid and our juice.
Well, that's not a bad job, is it?
No,
that sounds pretty cool.
But I always tell everybody that it's taken 45 years to do that.
True.
Right? It wasn't overnight.
True. Very true.
But anyways, even though we do really well in the United States, we can do so much more around the world. So we have markets that we're focusing around the world that we think it'll take over. Because if you can sell bourbon and other products around the world, why can't you sell our products around the world?
Without a doubt. One of the last questions I have for you, and you obviously taste for a living. If you're going to dinner off the clock, what's your go-to? If you're going to have something to drink with dinner, what's your spirit of choice?
Well, I would take a Buffalo Trace product, of course.
Okay.
So Buffalo Trace or Eagle Rare.
Okay.
But they're all great in different ways. You can take an E.H. Taylor, or you can take a Blanton's, or any of the ones that we make, and you'll just enjoy it depending on what mood you're in, I suspect.
Right. Well, good. Well,
everybody asks me that question.
I'm sure.
There's really not a good answer, and I always tell people it's really the they're all my children, so I can't really pick and choose my favorite.
But kind of think about it every once in a while. And you're like,
But then if people push me, especially writers, when they want to write about it, I say the one we haven't made
there you go.
yet. And we make new ones all the time.
I'm sure. And people will knock down my doors and get in my Instagram DMs and do anything they can to find them. So
Well, that's good to hear because but that means we're doing something right.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So thank you very much. This has been a very cool little insight of everything that you're doing, who you are. So thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very
Thank
much.
you so much for having me.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.